All right, and welcome to Fast Break Breakfast NBA Podcast. My name is Keith Parrish, and I'm here once again with my buddy through the miracle of computer phone. I'm here with Dave DeFore. Dave, it's February 11th. How is everything going in your world?
Great, except it's February 11th. I don't know. It feels like
one of your least favorite days of the calendar.
You've always just Christmas.
That. Oh yeah. You know, if you take those 11, that number, the 1 and the 1, and then if you add a little line to the top of them, it becomes a 7 and a 7.
Yeah.
That's 77. Stands for Luka Doncic making his debut on the Lakers. No, I don't want to start with the Luka Doncic news, although it's one of the greatest debacles of sports history. The Mavs keep digging themselves deeper in the grave. However, we have to have some decorum, some order around here. Our listeners demand things like our breakfasts. They want apologies. They want us to do some croissant questions. So we're going to do it on today's episode. But before we do, Dave, I want to start with Daniel Theis. I think this would be near and dear to you. Daniel Theis was traded on trade deadline day as the Pelicans got under the luxury tax. Congratulations to all teams who got under the luxury tax. But Daniel Theis traded, waived, lots of immediate speculation. Hey, that's a world champion center. He can maybe help some places. Maybe some other trades in the NBA have been rescinded. Teams need centers. But no, Daniel Theis has left the NBA, Dave. Have you seen this news? Has it come across your newswire?
Of course it has.
He's going to Monaco.
Yeah.
And you always say, Dave.
My buddy Manu is actually one of the assistants there in Monaco. So, yeah, he's going to go play Mike James.
I love imagining the scenario where Daniel Theis's agent presented Daniel some options. It's like, hey, man, there's buyout market in the NBA. A couple of teams created roster spots. Would you like to go live in Memphis for 3 months? Or what about Monte Carlo? Do you want to be in Monte? I'll take Monte Carlo. Thanks. That sounds good. Yeah. There's more basketball than the NBA, and there's a certain quality of life aspect, and also the money's probably pretty decent when you're talking about. Yeah. You've already made your guaranteed money this year.
Right.
Congratulations.
And he's not going to be that far from home.
Congratulations, Daniel Theis. Sorry.
Such an upgrade.
Lakers and other teams, you got to find a different center. Anyways, Dave, what breakfast have you had? Have you had any good breakfast?
Oh,
Are you still, is it, I mean, the seasons, have they changed? Is it still pumpkin oatmeal?
Pumpkin oatmeal.
Okay.
Protein shake. Same old. Decision making. Why do I need to make decisions in the morning?
I understand that.
Yeah.
My children, my daughter started doing this. She started laying out her school clothes on the floor. I mean, she does the night before, lays out her entire outfit, which is not much because there's a school uniform. Sure. You have to wear like a T-shirt that has the school's name on it or a collared shirt. And but still, she still lays everything out. And, the alarm goes off. She just hops out of bed, puts it on. She's fully dressed. No decisions in the morning. So, yeah, I respect that. I also have trouble thinking in the morning. But my breakfast, Dave, very outside the realm of normal breakfast acceptable foods. I had a steaming hot bowl of gumbo.
Whoa.
At 9:30 a.m. today.
Wow.
So a couple of things. One, my parents have been spending most of February. They're renting a place on the Gulf, like 30A somewhere on the Panhandle. But my mom has a lot of medical tests, has to come back. Basically,
Gulf of Mexico. But.
Yeah, Gulf of Mexico. Oh, yeah, Gulf. Yeah. What else would I call it, Dave? I'm not an idiot.
Right.
They drive back every now and then to see a doctor. Everything's going basically okay. But it was my birthday last week, and they know I'm a gumbo fiend, so they brought me some gumbo. Very sweet of them. They drove back, dropped it off. It was either freeze it or eat it. Was my situation when they brought it over yesterday afternoon. So I had a late lunch of gumbo on Monday. Tuesday morning, I felt kind of hungry. I felt a little peckish. Also, we had to get the kids up early, a little earlier than normal. My son auditioned to play a xylophone part in a Black History Month performance at his school. That's right.
Does he play the xylophone?
No, but he knows piano sort of. I'm teaching him piano, but he auditioned. He got the xylophone part. Rehearsal was at 7:15 a.m., which is 45 minutes before school starts, which I was mortified about. So now we have to wake up even earlier, which is not our thing. So everyone laid their clothes out. Even my son laid his clothes out the night before. I laid my clothes out the night before. I get up an extra half hour early, but then come 9:30, I'm kind of hungry. And I'm like, well, I got to finish this gumbo off. So I polished it off, Dave. A nice morning bowl of gumbo.
I make a lentil soup every week.
That's right, you do.
I like it for lunch. I almost had a bowl of that for breakfast.
Well, there we go. Well,
this week's batch is really good.
Not the most traditional breakfasts, but we've fulfilled our obligation to the listener to know what we had for breakfast. Now, Dave, after our breakfasts.
Flipped it into the live stream the other day, by the way.
Yeah, I got some feedback. I got some, hey, not only has The Athletic copied the vibe with the orange breakfast theme, now Dave is doing his actual breakfasts on the NBA trade deadline live stream. It's cool. It's an homage. I respect it.
Well, yeah. I just don't do that pod at 8 a.m.
Yeah, y'all had an all day trade deadline live stream. Y'all were gracious enough to let me drop in, shake things up, offer some pushback to the normal narratives, also react to Marvin Bagley becoming a Grizzly. What a moment. Just what a great time.
So
Dave,
funny.
Thinking about Marvin Bagley to the Grizzlies. I know a lot of people have criticized the Raptors acquiring Brandon Ingram. But let's review. The Raptors traded Bruce Brown and a first-round pick and a second-round pick and got Brandon Ingram. You could say, why are they doing that? But also, you got back a talented guy. The Grizzlies traded Marcus Smart, Zaire Williams, a first-round pick and a second-round pick, and got back Marvin Bagley. So there's two ways you can do it. I don't know if I specifically like the way the Grizzlies did it anymore. But anyways, after our breakfast, I was going to say we moved to our breakfast in bed apologies. This is my chance to make right what I might have gotten wrong on a previous episode. I will say, I think this was on the normal episode. I think this was on last week's episode. This might have been on a Patreon exclusive thing. But we were talking, were we not talking about the Hornets? They had a mascot. They had a mascot, and I couldn't remember exactly what it was. But Hugo, of course, is the Hornet.
Right.
But I was like, they have a humanized version, and I was like, what is it? And then I started looking, and I'm like, oh, maybe I confused this with Mavs Man, because Mavs Man is the weird human. But no, there's a Super Hugo, and I was Googling this. I kept going Hornets mascot, but then I wanted to say not Hugo, but that wasn't working either, and I couldn't figure it out. So, like most men my age, I have a text thread of Hornets fans. I assume everyone else does. And I dropped it in my text thread of Hornets fans. I'm like, hey, you guys used to have a weird person mascot, didn't you? Or did I dream this? And they're like, that's Super Hugo. So Super Hugo was, in fact, a dunking blue man, not to be confused with Mavs Man. So I was unclear about that. Happy to get that correct. Also, Dave, on last episode, we were asking the question, does defense win championships? As Nico Harrison has claimed, defense wins championships. And I was like, is that true? And I was asking, what's the worst offensive team to win a title in the last 15 years? I guessed the bubble Lakers. It's not true. I looked this up. Inquiring minds wanted to know. So I have the answers now. Most teams win the title. Let's say since the Mavericks last won the title 14 years ago. Most teams that win the title are awesome at offense. They're the best offensive teams. The Celtics, they were number one in offensive rating last year. They won the title. But the worst offensive team to win a title in the last 15 years, it's the Warriors from 3 years ago. Of course. I forgot this. They were number one in the NBA in defense. Their offensive rating in the regular season, they were 17th. So very remarkable. They are the only team they're the only team in the last 15 years to be worse than 11th. But here are the offensive ratings of our last 15 champions. Celtics, first. Nuggets, fifth. Warriors, as mentioned, 17th. There's your aberration. Bucks, 8th. The bubble Lakers were 11th. They were third in defense. But then before that, the Raptors, fifth in offense. Before that, the Warriors, third in offense. The Warriors team before that, first in offense. The Cavs team before that, third in offense. The Warriors team before that, second in offense. Spurs, seventh in offense. Heat, second in offense. Like, go all the way back. Being great at offense has typically been the formula. You want to be amazing in offense with a strong defense. Being amazing at defense with an okay offense hasn't really been the formula so much. So there are, I think, the actual factual answers for that information.
Yeah.
But of course, Dave, this Mavericks team, they could have done it right until Anthony Davis got hurt. They
yeah. Well, they were going to have, who knows what they were going to do. They were probably going to win the title, Keith.
So let's do a brief bit on as the Mavericks world turns, as things come spiraling apart. I don't feel like anything that's happened in the past, 3 days has slowed down conspiracy theorists. It's getting worse and worse. I feel like in that situation, they seemingly reported that there were death threats to Nico Harrison. They set up a large police presence outside of American Airlines for the first game post Luka. Anthony Davis, at the very least, delivered an incredible performance, but then injured himself badly. Now there's some thought, and I kind of feel this. Did they rush back Anthony Davis? Was Anthony Davis rushed back? His return to play? I mean, maybe you couldn't avoid the injuries, but that isn't making things any better. Then in their very exhilarating loss to the Kings, where there were multiple strange plays down the stretch, DeMar DeRozan almost blew the game after having an incredible offensive performance, but DeRozan hits the game winner. The Mavericks throw out a fan, eject the fan.
Two fans.
Multiple fans. Okay, multiple fans for mouthing fire Nico. This has, again, spiraled out of control. I would just say
Jason Kidd didn't address the media after the game.
No post game for Jason Kidd. I don't know if any of the conspiracy theories we mentioned last time, most of them have been debunked.
Yeah.
And the team has come out like vociferously objecting to any kind of talk that no, we're not doing this to move the team to Vegas. That doesn't make any sense. We're committed
they're not going to move the team
for the long term. But the way they're treating everything, it's just like, well, if you had nothing to hide, why are you trying to silence all dissent in this new dictatorship world we live in? It's upsetting. Also, there
are a lot of parallels, Keith.
Yeah, yes, there are.
If we trade the Statue of Liberty to Russia for a future first-round pick, I'm just saying, like,
I saw someone under one of the biggest social media posts that went viral of the fan getting ejected. Someone replied, like, what is this, North Korea? It's like, no, it's America.
Yeah. What are you talking about,
Are you not
buddy?
paying attention? No. But the funniest thing also that I think was correctly pointed out, like Haralabob weighed in. Haralabob, of course, Bob Voulgaris, who was briefly employed by the Mavericks and like has some stake and interest in Luka Doncic, always one of Luka Doncic's biggest fans and supporters. I mean, he pointed out correctly, like, how do they release a public statement talking about wanting someone with strong work ethic, and they don't mention Dirk Nowitzki? When Dirk Nowitzki's on your court and you have a statue in front of the basketball arena, the basketball arena is on Nowitzki Way. It's the name of the street. And meanwhile, you mentioned Shaq, who's known for not having a great work ethic, who is the most casual basketball fan name you could pull out. Like, all of it's horrible. And again,
well, Dirk went to LA. He wasn't
Dirk
at AD game.
Goes to the Lakers game to support Luka.
It's insane. They've lost Dirk.
They've lost Dirk. And again, all of this points to, are you intentionally trying to destroy the franchise? Because we sat here 8 days ago, Dave, and we're like, it seems like they're trying to intentionally destroy a franchise. How could you ever come to this basketball/business decision? Meanwhile, I'm watching the Lakers, and I'm like, how in the world did they get this going down? But let's go a little deeper than that. Is there any more about the Lakers or the Mavericks
honestly,
we need to say?
Like, I don't even know. I don't know. It's bad for the league that this happened.
I agree. It's kind of bad.
Very nihilistic, and it just, I don't know.
It's bad for the league, except Dave. Last night, I excitedly tuned into a Lakers game, which I don't normally do, and maybe I'm not the correct avatar of every human being or casual NBA fan. But I'm like, I got to watch Lakers Luka. And wow. I mean, it was the Jazz, but still, it was delightful. But Dave, let's take a break, and then we'll come back. We actually have a lot of the NBA trade deadline to recap and some other interesting playoff races to get to that don't involve the Mavericks destroying their fan base and their franchise. We'll do that right after this short break. All right, Dave, I said we were done with the Lakers, but I do feel like we have to hit the one trade from NBA trade deadline.
Oh, yeah.
That's not done, because the Mark Williams trade, the Dalton Knecht and multiple firsts and Cam Reddish for Mark Williams trade, was rescinded by the Lakers days after the trade deadline. There is no recourse, or usually there's no recourse if someone fails their physical, if it's done at the deadline. So the Lakers are like, no, we're sending Mark Williams back. Now, the latest news, Shams Charania is reporting that the Hornets are looking for a recourse to dispute the doctor's findings, disputing the medicals, saying this Mark Williams trade should, in fact, go through. Should Hornets fans, who wants this trade to go through more? The Hornets, obviously, right? Or do the Lakers actually want the trade to go through? I feel like they don't, but what do you think?
So that's the thing, is I wonder if the Lakers just got, they don't want this to go through, right? I don't want to say they got cold feet. I don't want to pretend to know anything about what's happening inside this this situation. But also, obviously they got cold feet. Teams trade for injured guys all the time. Either he actually has an injury that is a huge red flag to their medical staff, or there's enough that they can make a case to get out of the trade. But I don't know, man. I kind of, if he's healthy, I like the trade for the Lakers. Obviously, it's a great trade for the Hornets.
So I was more of the opinion, and I should spell out, I can't even pretend to be a Mark Williams expert. I mean, the guy's only played 80-something games.
Yeah.
So, how many of those have any of us seen? I feel like I've probably seen 6 of them.
20?
You got 20.
I watch basketball every day.
Yeah. But even when I watch basketball every day, you're telling me I caught, of those 80 games over the last 3 years, it's all a lot of theoretical. How does he actually feel on every possession? What's he doing out there? But I will say, with that caveat aside, the acquisition cost for the Lakers I felt was really high. Where I'm like, this is your last bullet, so to speak. Of course you won the Luka Doncic trade. You now have saved your franchise. But then I was like, the last thing you do here is send out these 2 picks for this guy who's hurt, who even when healthy, I'm like, okay, good player. But also he plays the position for me that's the most readily available, the lob catcher. And it's like, how many orders of magnitude better does a big have to be than Jackson Hayes for it to be worth your final first rounders you have in the cupboard to trade? So for that, I didn't like the trade for the Lakers. I'm like, you can find. I assumed you're going to try to get a Nick Claxton or a Mitchell Robinson.
Was the guy I thought.
Also, what was the acquisition cost for Daniel Gafford? And again, because of the draft pedigree, maybe people think Mark Williams is greater than that, and he's a difference maker. But for me, the lob catching center is the most readily available archetype of player out there, and especially in free agency, these guys don't get paid usually. So
DeAndre Jordan caught a lob last night.
The Nuggets have revived Zeke Naji.
I mean, Jackson Hayes caught 3 in the game last night.
Yeah.
My thing was, unless people really believe in that defensive upside for him.
Yeah.
And in which case, look, I mean, I know a lot of draft guys who really do think Mark Williams is going to be a great center. I just think, they probably feel like they gave up too much.
So then when the trade was initially rescinded, the Hornets put out a nice team statement saying we love having Mark in the building. We're happy to have him back. But when this aggressive offer came, we felt like it was in the best interest of the team. But now, of course, I mean, they haven't publicly said anything, but now it's come out through league sources that they're trying to figure out what exactly did we not tell you. There was the other trade with Caleb Martin from the Sixers with the Mavs, where they somewhat curiously traded. I mean, it was future money issue with trying to re-sign Quentin Grimes, but they traded the younger version of Caleb Martin and a second round pick for Caleb Martin, and then they got Caleb Martin, and it turned out that maybe he's more hurt. So then they amended the trade. That of course happened because it occurred before the trade deadline. With the Mark Williams thing, I think the Hornets are saying, what do we not represent about his issue? Like, we showed you all his medicals. We told you we were very above board. We like, you knew what you were getting. You were getting a guy who had played X number of games over 3 years and is going to be needing a contract in another year. You knew all that, and you made the deal, and they're probably saying what we're saying, where I feel like this feels like you read your trade grade online, and then you got cold feet, and then you're like,
well,
you know what? Maybe it was
getting the A+, after being skipped a bunch of grades.
Yep.
On the Luka Doncic trade.
There you go.
You can't get, a C or whatever they got. It's to me, it was more weird that was the go-to right now was to make that move. Like you said, that Dalton Knecht in that 2031 or I think it was 2031.
Yeah, the 2031 unprotected. Yeah.
Yeah. Those are your bullets.
Yeah.
And you fired both of them, in my opinion, early.
That's what I'm saying.
I thought they were going to get a placeholder guy. They, Valanciunas. Maybe, like you said, they get Mitchell Robinson, which they'd have him for a little bit. But I didn't expect them to go and try to make the move for the guy that's going to be there for a few years.
Yeah.
Within days of getting Luka Doncic. I assumed it was going to be.
So, and I don't know what kind of resolution we could even hope for. I mean, you're talking about, is Adam Silver just supposed to, does the CBA say the commissioner just makes a ruling? Like, you can't take it to an arbitrator. You can't go Glenn Taylor versus Laurie and Rodriguez, because this is like, is Dalton Knecht just not supposed to play until this is resolved? And so, I don't know. I mean, talk about awkward plane rides and awkward. Like, I assume, because like Dalton Knecht flew out there, and I assume Mark Williams did his physical out in LA. So like, it's weird stuff. But like, it's funny. Maybe the biggest loser of the trade was going to be Dalton Knecht.
Right.
We're like, you're the movement shooter playing off of Luka and LeBron, and now you're going to a clown show where LaMelo Ball is just pulling up from 30 feet. And I don't know. It's wild. Beyond
Dalton
that,
Knecht, if he winds up staying with the Lakers, Dalton Knecht playing with Austin Reeves, LeBron, and Luka is gonna.
Yeah, you'd think.
Yeah.
I mean, part of me appreciates the Lakers maybe selling him at his high point. Like, Dalton Knecht might not be any good. He can shoot. He can shoot, and he's had some moments. But I'm just saying, like. Yeah. Obviously, he's older than Mark Williams. He's a very old rookie, and we don't know what the future holds for him. A lot of times, these teams who refuse to trade their young guys, because like, oh, he could turn out to be great. It's like the odds are he's not going to turn out to be great. But anyways,
right.
The biggest deadline move beyond Luka, what do you think what is it for you, Dave, league wide? Do you think the biggest move was that happened?
I mean, the Jimmy Butler trade is pretty big for the Warriors.
Yeah, it seems huge.
They look different. They look much different. So I think that one's pretty big. But they don't feel like serious contenders. And I don't want to be the guy who's like podcasts every day and says, well, the most important trade was DeAndre Hunter. But kind of. Yeah. Like DeAndre Hunter to Cleveland really, it solves a lot of problems for them. That wing issue that they've just had for years, where they just didn't have a guy who could D up and also shoot. So I don't know. It's definitely Jimmy Butler, but I don't think it's podcaster brain if you want to couch it with which deal most affects or could most affect the title. Yeah.
Because like the Jimmy Butler trade, of course, is a bigger trade, bigger name, bigger star. But like the Cavaliers are in the inner circle of title contenders having an unreal season.
Yeah.
And that's a guy, that's a team that could be in the finals and picked up help as far as an offensive boost there. And even if he has the defensive limitations, he's got size, and you can throw him out there. And it's like, we're talking about, well, is he better defender than like Georges Niang was? Yes. So it's like,
and that's the thing. He can play the three. He can slide up, play the four when they play just one of Mobley or Allen. He completes a lot of the puzzles for them, you know?
Yeah. I do think the Warriors acquiring Butler is huge in the sense that it didn't end up being that massive of an acquisition cost. I mean, speaking of podcast brain, I feel like I could pull it on and make an argument that Wiggins is more important or a better fit. But after 2 games of Jimmy Butler, by the way, averaging 14 and a half free throws per game on the Warriors. But after 2 games of that unethical basketball, it's like Butler, who seems like, oh yeah, you just gave me my I care about basketball meter is now filled up again. And you're like, oh yeah, Jimmy Butler's amazing. And so like just having that for the price of Wiggins and Kyle Anderson and your first round pick this year, plus a couple of seconds, like that's no big deal. As far as the return for the Heat, it's not much.
I don't know. I like the Heat,
but I do like Wiggins. I mean, the Heat shot 33% last night, which is like, all right, that's not going to happen again.
Shooting aside, they were doing stuff, and Wiggins actually really works for them in a lot of ways. Yeah, I love Wiggins, Bam, and Ware. And I think with Tyler Hero out there stirring the drink a little bit. I mean, Wiggins. So it was kind of sad. Wiggins had the ball on the wing, and Bam sets up like at the elbow in the high post, and Wiggins makes the pass to Bam, and he starts to set like to make a cut to set a flare screen for someone, and nobody's coming, and it's like he stopped and had a moment where he realized, oh, I'm not in Golden State anymore, and then he just goes and tries to figure out what to do. But I think honestly, I actually think some of that mindset is going to be good for the Heat. Because they didn't really have a lot of guys who would the way that their offense works. I just don't think that they've had guys like Wiggins who's willing to go, okay, hey, you know what? I can take this off the dribble. I can pull up from 3. I can pull up from 3 in transition. Like he's a willing shooter and willing screener. And then again, gives you the other end too. So I just think having a normal guy there makes him so much better.
Yeah. I mean, obviously having a Wiggins over a checked out Jimmy Butler, huge improvement there. Yeah. I do like the fit. I mean, I'm a big Wiggins fan, and so I do like the fit. And as far as like them just turning whatever this headache and this big money of Butler getting off that money, now you have the much cheaper Jimmy Butler, and now the much cheaper Andrew Wiggins, and now you're just you need more, I think, guard play, shooting on that squad. Also, by the way, I love my favorite guy, Slow-Mo, who it was really up in the air there for a while where Kyle Anderson was going. It seems like he was headed to the Raptors, and he's like, no, I'm not doing that. and so they're like, okay, cool. You're coming to South Beach. Him wearing the Vice City jersey.
Was there an issue with maybe his Chinese passport? I don't know.
I hadn't thought of that.
Just kidding.
Man, no. Hey, speaking of passports, Dave, I was watching the new look Sacramento Kings. You like that transition?
Mine is good. Yes, mine is good.
Your face
I'm
says
ready to escape. I'm good.
No, I'm watching the new look Kings, who are playing. They played Valanciunas and Sabonis together, going down the stretch of that Mavericks game. No, I was thinking those guys need to make Jake LaRavia an honorary Lithuanian. They need to get Jake LaRavia.
Get him on their. They got to
get him a
team.
Passport.
That's funny.
They got to get him a passport. Also, he was doing all kinds of back cuts and things, and it was like, oh, the Kings don't do this. He's like running around, every time he gets the ball, he's attacking and then swinging it and then like cutting backdoor and like they're like, we don't move the ball that quick, brother.
It was oh man, there was another moment like that. This is low key one of my favorite things post trade deadline is when they throw the guys out there.
Yeah.
So it was in the Laker game, Luka, LeBron, and everybody else is on the court. So LeBron goes to drive and basically has nowhere to go and gives the ball up and then doesn't move. And Jackson Hayes is just also in the lane. And so now you've got this next drive coming, and it's just like these guys just hung out in the paint because they're just so used to somebody just, all right, the ball's got to go up.
Yeah.
They're not used to having another guy out there who's going to try to do stuff. So, yeah, this stuff is so funny to me.
Speaking of teams that just throw the guys out there, I mean, I don't know what else they're supposed to do, but I was watching League Pass on Monday, and like the Hawks, where I'm like, when I first turn it on, I'm like, who are these guys? And then I'm like, oh, that's Karis LeVert. and Terrence Mann, and all of a sudden it's their team and they're playing all the time, and you're like, oh, it's pretty cool. The Hawks,
and then they beat Orlando.
yeah, the Hawks trade deadline kind of weird because they traded DeAndre Hunter, and then they traded Bogdan Bogdanovic, who's had a horrible year, but like they took on more money going forward for Terrence Mann, and they ended up not netting really picks. Like they traded DeAndre Hunter for picks, but then they used those picks to move. So it's kind of weird, but I mean, they're still competing. By the way, congrats Trae Young getting named to the All-Star game, like we said he should have been. And again, every year, 30 guys make the All-Star game, so it's gonna be fine. I'm looking through the other. Oh, so we hit the Raptors trade, which is like, okay, you got Brandon Ingram again.
I mean, you got to do that if you're the Raptors,
you think so?
They can't sign free agents, and it's like it's one way to have an asset, and I hate to even think about it like have an asset, but it's also one way to have a good player because Brandon Ingram's good. You know, I don't know what Toronto is going to do, like, but they can't tank forever. At some point, people are going to get fired. And so they have to put out a competitive team of some sort.
Is Masai Ujiri going to get fired?
I don't know. They haven't done anything for years. They're constantly in this weird, morass of will they tank, won't they tank?
Maybe because they keep trading first-round picks for the Thaddeus Youngs and Kelly Olynyk's of the world.
I don't know. Can they trade Jakob Poeltl away and then trade back and give up more? I just don't know, man. So you have to do it because you're not going to sign free agents. Yeah. So you have to get like guys like Brandon Ingram on deals like this and hope it either works out or you flip it for, more picks or whatever. It's a whole asset play at this point for them.
Would you rather have, if you're the Raptors, would you rather have what you have now, Brandon Ingram, Emmanuel Quickley, RJ Barrett, and be down multiple first-round picks, or would you rather have those first-round picks back and Pascal Siakam and OG Anunoby?
Yeah, I'd rather have the
So it's like you're like one of those things. Like, well, we don't. Maybe Siakam's overpaid, or Anunoby, we got to pay him. So let's bring in guys who make less but also make a lot. RJ Barrett makes a lot. And maybe the fit, you're like, oh, the fit with Scotty Barnes and Pascal and OG, it's not workable. Yeah, it could be because those guys are all better basketball players.
The Siakam thing is really, it's a real bummer. Whenever a team trades away their best player, and then they traded away him and OG Anunoby, right? So, and the Pascal thing is, you don't put a competitive team out there on the court. You're again the same issues. Why would people want to stay?
Yeah.
Right? Like, why would you want to stay in that situation? I don't know, man. They should have just given Pascal the Supermax.
Yeah.
Because he's a Supermax player for them.
Yeah. I don't know the right answers, but I'm hard pressed to feel like this Brandon Ingram trade is the right answer. I mean, great job by the Pelicans getting a first rounder back just when they
unbelievable.
They kind of had to get out of the Brandon Ingram business. And this goes to so many trades where you're like, where's the how did you get leverage out of this? Right. Like, how did you make this happen? I mean, you think about Jimmy Butler, incredible leverage play. That man made $70 million by being a headache for months. It's like, that man knows what he's doing. Like that, he did it again. Incredible job. I made this joke actually on the Athletic live stream, and I've thought about it now for 4 days, and I don't think it was a joke. Where I said like the trade deadline winner was the Wizards. I think the Wizards did incredibly well.
Oh yeah,
I think the Wizards
cleaning up.
They did amazing. They got multiple first round picks for sort of trash.
Well, they did exactly what you're supposed to do with the deal like Valanciunas.
Yeah.
Right? When the bad teams sign the veteran players to the tradable contracts and then don't trade them.
Yeah, right.
It's infuriating.
Right. Yeah.
So, this is the deal.
They flipped Valanciunas for 2 seconds. But like they have acquired so many second round picks, and then they started swinging out all these second round picks to other teams to pick up first rounders. They kept moving up. That's what they did in the Marcus Smart trade. They also, by the way, got Marcus Smart. Maybe he's good for culture. I don't know. But like maybe that's good for the Wizards as they begin. So I think the deconstruction is over now, Dave, right? So we had the life cycle of the Wizards when they're like, we haven't even begun the breakdown. You still think there's further to go on the breakdown?
Oh, they're just breaking out the tools for the teardown.
Okay. I felt like they're scooping back up because like they legit got They got Marcus Smart. Not that he's going to help you on the court that much, but like he's not going to hurt you. And also, you got a first-round pick. You moved up a second-rounder into the first round for that. You also picked up a late first-round pick from the Sixers in 2026 to help them out of their luxury tax issues. So you swap some picks around there to get in another first-rounder. You also got a pick swap and Chris Middleton for sending Kyle Kuzma to the Bucks. I hate what the Bucks did. I mean, the Bucks, it was all about getting under the second apron and convincing yourself Kuzma is going to help you more than Chris Middleton. I don't care that Chris Middleton had double ankle surgery and we've been making fun of it. Like, Middleton will help you win a basketball game better than Kyle Kuzma.
Way more.
Kyle Kuzma can't do it. And I don't care. All right, so maybe he's not going to shoot 55% from the foul line all year. Maybe he's not going to keep up that box plus minus of like negative 5.5 or whatever it was. Like, he's been one of the most harmful players in the NBA this season. But like, he's not what you need, especially when they didn't. I also thought when they brought in Kyle Kuzma, it was like, oh, all right, so now they're going to trade Bobby Portis.
Right.
They're going to trade Portis and Connaughton for something to make the whole fit make more sense. Like, I mean, I think Portis and Connaughton, you could have matched Brandon Ingram money. I've always said Brandon Ingram was one of the only fits for me that made sense in my head was playing him alongside Giannis. And it's like, all right, so maybe Lopez isn't out there all the time, but like it sort of maybe fits. Getting Kuzma and keeping Portis and that being it, I was like, oh, that is gross. Like, I am not a fan at all. Is there, I mean, what's the pushback? That Kuzma will be more dynamic of a player and more available than Middleton?
No.
Okay.
They ducked attacks.
Yeah. I think beyond that, I don't have any big takeaways as far as like
there were a lot of trades.
There were a lot of trades, but so many of them were just tiny financial transactions.
That's the thing.
I will say
to the administrative league.
Here's the one thing, maybe my before we move into some croissant questions. My biggest surprise outside of things we've already talked about was just maybe the lack of movement for some players that I assumed would, be on their way out. I thought, I mean, like the Bulls. Okay. So the Bulls didn't really surprise me because they do this every year.
Right.
But it was like,
They extended Lonzo.
The extending Lonzo when
to move him to summer.
The Grizzlies were offering that pick. I mean, the Grizzlies apparently were offering Marcus Smart and the same first-round pick for Lonzo Ball, and they're like, no, we'd rather have Lonzo Ball and no first-round pick. But also, they signed him for a cheap extension. So okay, but what's the point? Also, I don't think Ayo Dosunmu was even available. Maybe they listened on Kobe White and things. They did not find a taker for Vucevic. Maybe the Warriors' pursuit of Durant and Butler kept them from. Getting Vucevic. But by the way, the Warriors don't need Vucevic because they got that Quentin Post guy. Oh my Lord.
Fire last night.
Let's take a quick break from trade deadline recap to talk about Quentin Post, who looks like Brook Lopez. The guy's been playing amazingly recently. Anyways, that by the way, that also speaks to the fact that random centers show up all the time. It seems like the easiest thing to find.
Playing with Steph Curry
makes life easy.
It does. Yeah. Like, what if Jaren Jackson had Steph Curry?
What he wouldn't be seventh in the MVP race where he currently is.
I think he could be sixth.
Yeah, I think Basketball Reference has him sixth or seventh in MVP probability. No, the Nets, Dave, have more talent right now than they started the year with. Was that on purpose? Like, I understand no one met your Cam Johnson asking price. And like when you hit it out of the park with the Mikal Bridges asking price, maybe you're good. You're like, I don't have to hit every trade. You got some stuff for Dennis Schroeder, but like D'Angelo Russell is still there. Nick Claxton didn't go anywhere. You have Cam Johnson. You got rid, addition by subtraction. Ben Simmons is out the door. I think the Nets have more talent than they started the year with. Dave, I can't even find a sports book right now that has odds where you can bet the Nets to make the playoffs. They're only 3 games back. And they have more talent.
They're very well coached.
They're better. I think they're better than the Bulls. The Bulls lost Zach LaVine. They're only 3 games behind the Bulls, and like the Sixers are a tire fire. They're the worst disaster this side of Dallas.
All right. And Philly, we're waiting. Something's brewing in Philly.
What do you mean?
I have no inside info, but just feel like we're going to get bad news.
Well, I mean, the biggest news I saw out of Philly was Joel Embiid saying that he still needs another surgery and recovery time to be healed and be whole again. And this directly contradicts things the team has said. But like Philly right now, they're a game and a half behind the Bulls, but also only a game and a half up on the Nets.
That's what I'm saying. Brooklyn
I'm saying right now.
Oh my God.
I'm saying right now, I think the Nets should be like plus 300 to make the playoffs, which is like, all right. But like, I'm saying no books even offer that. I'm saying I feel like they're not even on the board. Also, you know who's not on the board, Dave? The Trailblazers. The Trailblazers, you can't, again, like all these places have like, all right, Mavericks are like minus 100 just to not fall out of it. The Spurs have fallen to plus 400 to make the playoffs. But I'm talking about like the Trailblazers are playing better than the Spurs. The Mavericks
playing better than a lot of teams.
The Mavericks have lost Anthony Davis for who knows how long. They lost, Lively and Gafford are both out. They played a center I'd never heard of. I'd heard of Quentin Post. They had a guy playing on Monday. I'm not ashamed to say it. No clue who he was. But like the Trailblazers, I mean, they're further back, and also the teams they're chasing. It's a competitive, tight race right now. The Mavericks, the Kings, the Warriors, and Suns all have 26 losses, and the Trailblazers have 31 losses. So like their odds should be astronomically low.
Yeah,
but like I still should be able to wager on it. Because like I think they're playing better than the Spurs, and like I mean the Suns and the Mavericks, I'm not feeling great about either one of those situations. Maybe I'm in Suns denial. KD was saying all the right things after the trade deadline, and like KD's amazing.
He's a pro.
He's a pro. And I'm still surprised with how underwhelming they've been, even when healthy. But like, I could see the Warriors having a catastrophic injury or a catastrophic, just kind of like things just don't work. Jimmy goes sideways, although maybe not. Maybe they'll stay scrappy and fighting to the end. But it's the Mavericks. I mean, Kyrie did everything he could. I mean, Kyrie played so well, but they've lost all these close games. It's going to be a tight race. I think. Yeah. Were there any other trades that we missed? I mean, the Suns didn't move. Like they did a salary dump with Nurkic.
There was, again, it was a lot of financial moves.
Moves. Actually, let's now move to the croissant questionnaire, because we have some questions specifically about a move the Suns made. So these are some listeners submitted questions. The croissant questionnaire.
Are you going to finish that croissant?
All right, Dave. I love this question from Owen Lopez O'Neill. Which Martin twin trade will have a bigger impact on the Western Conference playoff race? So you had the Mavericks go get Caleb Martin.
Right.
In the Nurkic salary dump, the Suns picked up Cody Martin. Which Martin twin trade will have a bigger impact on the playoff race in the West, Dave?
And Caleb is more hurt, right?
He's much more hurt. They're both hurt.
Yeah.
They're both.
Well, all right. I'll just tell you right now, because I'm looking at the standings, and two teams, like we talked about, two teams out of the Clippers, Wolves, Mavericks, Kings, Warriors, Suns, and Spurs.
Yep.
Are out, right? They're not going to make it. I feel like the Suns are one of those teams, and the Mavericks, with the way things have gone here recently, feel like they could easily be one of those teams. I don't know. Could we say neutral?
No, you got to pick. You got to pick.
I'll go with Cody and Phoenix, because I just think that they just need a guy like that. He's going to play.
I feel like that's how I feel. I mean, Cody. So I've seen him play more than I've seen Mark Williams play, and he's just one of those. He's just one of those like helpful 3-and-D guys who, of course, is always injured, on and off injured, and it does seem like he's a big upgrade on the Josh Okogie types who he was traded for, and maybe there's not a spot in the rotation with Royce O'Neal there, and they're getting the minutes to the rookies, Ryan Dunn and such, but like as a 3 who can come in, knock some shots down, maybe play some shooting guard anytime like Grayson Allen's out or Bradley Beal's out. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like maybe he could make a bigger impact, but also I think he's less hurt, like you said earlier.
Right.
So I'll say Cody Martin is the one there. Keith Eggleston asks, this is not me, this is a Patreon supporter named Keith. How hyped was Keith? Now he's talking about me. How hyped was Keith when Nate Duncan called the Grizzlies front office cowardly? Well, Keith, this was tipped off to me in the Patreon Slack. Someone's like, hey, Dunked On talked about it. They called it cowardly. And I'm like, ooh. And so I went and listened, excited about it. Like I go back and rewatch, you rewatch highlights from like sometimes the losing team audio. You want to see the Darius Garland buzzer beater, from the from the away team's response. So I would say I was quite hyped. I did not. I mean, I feel like the Grizzlies have kept making moves that helps them sleep better at night, as opposed to maybe letting it hang out a little bit and risk some stuff to try to go win a playoff series and go win a first round series. Like, win a playoff series or go win the title. Like they're saying, we understand that Jaren Jackson Jr. is the most sought after free agent probably in 2026. That's a real thing. And they're saying, well, he's probably going to make All NBA, but if he doesn't, then we won't be able to extend him. So maybe we should trade away a bunch of salary and not keep Jake LaRavia, and also trade away our first round pick. So we could possibly next summer attach more picks to move even more salary to give us another way to retain him on an extension by creating some cap space. And I'm like, or you could try to win a title right now because you're second in the West and Jaren's amazing, and you could, retain him when he hit free agent. Like, there are other options. There are options to go and try and win basketball games. There are options that have been available the previous seasons. So I don't know. Like if you'd packaged all your stuff years ago and traded for a guy instead of being like, oh, our window's not really open. And it's like, oh, we want to create a long-term flexibility and long-term success. It's like, yeah, you could still do those things. Those things they're not mutually exclusive.
They've been doing that for a long term.
Yeah, and it's like you could have used, I don't know, you haven't used your mid-level exception since Kyle Anderson. And it's like that was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. It's like sign some.
Probably could have gotten Kyle Anderson.
Well, I think that ship left.
Passport issues.
That ship sailed. They like Santi Aldama. Their front court's fine.
Yeah,
it's just like, man, you really said we're better off without Marcus Smart. We have Jalen Wells. And then in the first game after the trade deadline, you're playing the Thunder, and Jalen Wells is guarding Shea. And by the way, did a fine job. Shea had a terrible shooting night. More on that in a second. But like, you benched Jalen Wells 2 minutes into the second half. You benched Zach Edey. You're starting two rookies. Again, you're starting two rookies. You benched them 2 minutes into the third quarter, the game after the trade deadline, when you're like, we don't need Marcus Smart. We're better without him. So, I enjoyed it. Hearing Nate stand up for the Grizzlies people. Also, final question, Dave. Major Rich wants to know. He says, should they add an incentive to winning while in the luxury tax or the first or second apron, that the further you make it in the playoffs, the less restrictions you have? So there's no excuse, he continues to write, for good teams anymore to get under like the first or second apron without making them look cowardly.
Okay, so that's a slippery slope, right? Because
sure.
then you have just the rich will buy championships.
How dare they?
You wind up with baseball, because you would essentially not have a salary cap, which the NBA doesn't really have a salary cap because of the tax structure. They have this fake hard cap, right? But the Suns have a $408 million payroll. I don't know what it is right now, but if they won the title, what do you say? Hey, your tax bill is a third of what it was. Then it's probably worth it for them to just pay that tax or not pay the tax, but to go into the threat of that tax and at least try to win the title. Financially, it probably makes sense. So I don't know. I don't know what the solution is to like getting teams to spend.
Can I just say,
it is sad though to watch teams just get broken up for financial reasons, and like Karl Anthony Towns getting traded away was a money move.
Yes.
It was a money move.
Yeah,
not a basketball move. And so to watch that team that we thought they were going to be good for the next few years. And Keith, I don't know if you watched Timberwolves lately, but it ain't great. And
they can't slow down Ty Jerome.
Yeah, it really like threw a wrench in the team's entire plan for the next few years. So for me, look, I don't like the draft as it is. There's a lot of stuff I think they could fix, but I think they'd have to change the entire system to get it right. I don't know if you can add this incentive to winning to eliminate the tax bill. I just think it would get so crazy with the money being spent.
I do think a lot of people have suggested the idea of retaining your own drafted players, that those things would not count against either your luxury tax bill. That would have been a way for the Timberwolves to pay Karl Anthony Towns the money that he's owed.
Yeah.
That he's
your
worth.
Own guy shouldn't be considered a luxury.
Yeah, right? And it's like, why is this? But I can't keep all these guys, and you're going to see this coming up with the Thunder. This is the reason the Grizzlies are so cost conscious, because they got to pay Jaren maybe a supermax or something close to it. But however, like you said, Dave, it's sad that this is a question, and I'd just like to point out that to get on my pulpit here, Major Rich's question that starts off: should they add an incentive to winning? Where it's like. That's it's easily the most screwed up thing about the NBA.
I actually would
where there's
say
so
this.
many things where like you are not incentivized to win. And that spells out how it's an entertainment product and barely a sport sometimes, when it's like, why should you have to add an incentive to winning? Winning should be the incentive. And also I think financially you should be rewarded for winning. But like teams don't want to do like a purse payout based on where you finish in the standings. They want everyone to get the same cut of like TV revenue.
Need some NBA socialism, right? Like, so more than the luxury tax.
That's what we have. How do we not have NBA socialism?
I mean, there's got to be a way where the team, I don't know, the money is from a pooled pot.
This is what James Dolan's so mad about, all the NBA socialism. You're taking my money and giving it to the poor people.
It's the only way to have any sort of competitive balance, right? But it would be eliminating individual team ownership, I think. Like, you know what I mean? Like, you go into this huge centralized thing. I just the current system as it works. I mean, this new CBA in particular, I think is pretty harsh. But I would say this: there aren't a lot of teams going into the tax that aren't trying to win. I don't think they don't.
Right.
Yeah, it would be great if they felt like, hey, you know what, my investment was worth it. But these guys. It's not like they hate money. So they're not like the Suns owner is not spending $400 million. Number one, that he doesn't have. And number two, that he doesn't feel like he can recoup on value of the team, or if they win a title or whatever. His biggest problem isn't that he's scared to spend money. His biggest problem is, they're spending dumb money.
Yeah, he spits it in the wrong place. Well, anyways, thanks everybody for the questions. If you want your question to be answered on air or as part of a bonus episode, you have to be a Patreon supporter. Do that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. Also, if you join up over there, you can join the listener Slack channel. So support the show, patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. All right, Dave, it's now time for the awards segment of the program, the International Stackhouse of Pancakes Award, given to the worst performer in a box score. We have several honorable mentions. Jalen Williams, not the good one, was 0 for 9. D'Angelo Russell.
Is that Jay Will? Jay Will.
I can't remember.
Dub?
Yeah, J-Dub or J. I can't remember.
They just trade one of them.
Yeah.
Trade the not good one.
Trade the good one. No, trade the good one.
Trade the good one.
Scotty Barnes and Jordan Poole both had a 4 for 18 game. Tyler Hero 6 for 22. Shea Gilgeous-Alexander against the Grizzlies in a comfortable dominant blowout win was 8 for 26 though. Anyways, our 3 nominees this week, we have Tajon Salon in a loss to the Pistons. The Pistons comfortably in 6th. Shout out Pistons, man. Pistons picked up Dennis Schroeder for nothing. They also got Lindy Waters for nothing. Just hanging out with
that
their
into
cap
existence
space.
on the live stream. By the way.
Oh, nice. Pistons doing a real nice job, real nice season. But Tajon Salon struggled against them, was 1 for 12 from the field, 8 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists, 0 turnovers, 1 personal foul. He's a big Dave, 1 for 12. Wow. Tamani Kamara in a win against the Kings was 2 for 13, 4 points, 14 rebounds, 2 assists, 1 steal, 1 block, 1 turnover, 4 personal fouls. And then Adam Flagler This is the second time he's been in the ice shop, which is amazing since he barely plays. Adam Flagler in the Thunder's blowout win over the Bucks was 1 for 11. 1 for 11, 2 points, no rebounds, no assists, 2 steals, no turnovers, 0 personal fouls. He did this in 12 minutes.
Oh my God.
So,
what?
So we have Jean Salon, 1 for 12, 8.7 rebounds. Tumani Kamara, 2 for 13, 4 points, 14 rebounds. And then Adam Flagler, 1 for 11, 2 points, 2 steals.
The things that happen in NBA games, once I've decided, all right, this is a blowout, I got to move on. That's insane. Okay. Flagler.
Yeah, I think congratulations, Flagler. By the way,
record.
Adam Flagler on the season is 11 for 52 from the field, which is 21%. He basically only plays in garbage time blowouts, and he got up 11 shots in the fourth quarter.
How many total minutes has he played?
Not that many. I don't have it pulled up. Oh, I do have it pulled up. Let's check it out. I still have that window open. He's played 88 minutes this year. 88 minutes and 52 shots. Man, do your thing. Do your thing.
What is that? Like a shot? He's taking a shot
every 1.6 minutes.
Yeah, pretty good.
2 shots every 3 minutes. Yeah, good job, brother. You keep it up. That's incredible stuff. Anyways, Dave, I think we did it. This week, I think I'm most excited about just that Western Conference race. I also feel like the Nuggets are sort of leveling up. Speaking of fourth quarter blowouts, Jokic never plays fourth quarters anymore. He's just like, I'm done. I did it. Jokic is breaking stats once again. I know Shea has been unbelievable. He had another 50-point game in the last week, but I don't know. I'm a Jokic man.
Look,
he's the best player in the world by a good stretch. And
I think Shea is probably going to win MVP.
Yeah.
And it's one that we can argue. But when you have the team excellence that the Thunder have had, I am fine with this. I actually think that this isn't one where you're taking a guy who was on the 6th seed who put up some crazy numbers. I mean, they are the story of the season. I think Shea, if he does ultimately win MVP, I think it'll be well deserved.
Yeah.
That being said, Jokic somehow for the last 5 years has just put up the best season anyone's ever done. Every year.
He's gonna have the highest PER ever this year. Also, the funniest, most random, useless stat. Owen Phillips posted this, that because he's taken and made so many heaves this year.
Yeah.
That right now Jokic has, on average, the longest 3-point attempts for any player in any season in NBA history. On average, his 3-pointers are 29 feet. Yep. It's that's
16 heaves.
Yeah. I mean, actually, the Thunder, absolutely a story this season, them delivering. They finally got Chet Holmgren back, and they keep just dominating. But another story this season, of course, the Cavaliers, like we've talked about, so good. The Celtics now have the league's best road records. Like the Celtics, they sleepwalk because they can, and they know it doesn't matter right now. I think it's funny looking at the Eastern Conference standings where some of our preseason predictions, it took a long time, but now it's the Pacers are 4th in the East. They might have home court advantage, despite being real bad for a while. Halliburton's playing great. Of course, Siakam, arguably their best player. He's been so good. Return.
Orlando falling off once.
Orlando finally tumbled down. I was going to say Aaron Nesmith also. His return, I think, has really helped the Pacers.
Yeah.
Give them some defense on the wing. And then the West, the Rockets fell apart briefly. They finally got another win, but they're in that race with the Lakers because the Lakers haven't lost in a while. Invigorated by the trade, then invigorated by the rescinding of the Mark Williams trade. Now they get another reinvigoration. Whatever happens after that. Anyways, thanks everybody for listening. From support the show, do that at patreon.com/fastbreakbreakfast. You guys are the best. Remember, breakfast is the most important thing.
Yeah, never apologize for being G&G. Fast break, man. You understand?